Um, Welcome back. I've got Steve Brown on the line. Steve, how you doing today?
Other than being full of cold, spectacular. Thank you. Great to be
Yes,
with you.
it's that time. Great to
It's
be
that
with
time
you
of
as
year.
well. It is time, yeah, exactly, when the weather can't figure out what it wants to do. So, why don't you share a little bit about you, and then we'll jump into this conversation.
Sure. Spent a long time in high tech, career at Intel, and more recently, Google DeepMind. DeepMind is Google's AI research labs in London. I'm based on the west coast of the US. I've been here almost 30 years, but I got to go back to London and recharge my British accent, and that's why I have these dulcet British tones. I now help companies to figure out what to do with AI. So I'm an AI futurist. I spend my time understanding where AI is going next, and I help business leaders to build their AI strategies.
It's important work because I think a lot of companies are either frozen, they're not sure what to do with it, or they
Mm,
basically use AI blindly and they just have AI create all of their broken methodologies and silos and all of that. And it's like, oh, wow, now AI created the same thing for us. It forces the hand of companies, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. It does force the hand of companies to kind of hit the pause button for a second and get a good understanding of who they are as a company. Because if you want to leverage, the
mhm.
power and all the tools that AI has now and down the road, it certainly helps if you know who you are. Because otherwise, you're just throwing, stuff at the wall and hoping something sticks. And oh, great, it's AI; it'll get it
Right.
to you quick. But is it actually giving you, what you need to serve your customers? So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. Behind the scenes, you would never know it because I don't put it in any of my marketing, but my company's name, my LLC, is called Possibility and Purpose LLC. Because I believe that what leaders need to do is figure out, look at their purpose as a company. Back to identity. Identity is tied to purpose, right? What's the humanistic purpose that our company is here? What service do we provide to people? And then look at the landscape of possibility that AI presents to them, because there's lots of things you can do with AI. And as a business leader, what you're really having to choose is what do we not do with AI? And the way you figure that out is you look at the intersection of your purpose, your core humanistic purpose of the company, and the landscape of possibility out there. And that's what helps you decide what you're going to do with AI.
I think that's a very important thing to recognize is who are we? Yeah, and that's a question. It's a great question to ask your board of directors, especially if they've been on the board for a while,
Yeah.
because you're going to get multiple answers, which is always intriguing. And like, wow, I didn't know we had 12 divisions to this company. That's interesting, because they get in their mind what they think the organization is, and they kind of
Right.
forget who they are. And AI, one of the many benefits of it is it does help you streamline some things. It helps you get clarity on some things. But to your point, it can also be used to say, okay, we don't want to do this anymore, or you do deep dive, analytics on all your reports and things like that, and saying, is there something that we're not seeing here that is something we're spending a lot of time on, but it's not giving us any ROI or very limited, where if we shifted priorities and focused on maybe two or three things, what would that do, as far as market share or ease of use or workflow or all kinds of different things. So it's one of those, again, going back to what I said earlier, it does give organizations hopefully the permission to say, you know what, let's actually take stock and see who we are. What do we want to do?
Yeah.
And to your point, being a futurist, what do we want to look like when we look at ourselves a year down the road, or maybe a couple years down the road? 5 years, who knows? I mean, the last 5 or 6 years, the way life has been, no one would have predicted what's going on now. Well, I shouldn't say no one, but it has been an
Yeah.
interesting ride to say the least. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
like, if you would have said in 2019, okay, 2026 coming, and this is what the world looks like, I'd be like, what? It's like, oh, this is a sci-fi movie. Okay, that's not realistic. Oh no, it's real. It's here.
Yeah. And in
But
some ways, it surprised people even like me, right? Because of the pace that it's gone. And in some ways, it's gone unpredictably. But back to your point about identity, I think it causes you to stop and say, who are we? But again, to your point, AI is liberating in many ways for business leaders because it allows them to have a conversation about who do we want to be? How do we want to show up a year from now, 2 years from now, three years from now? And 3 years is probably as far as you can go at the moment. You can look out 10 years, but it becomes a bit more fuzzy at that point. And there's a roadmap to follow. There's a framework that leaders can go through, and most of them are in the first step of that three-step framework, which is enabling. They're using AI tools to enable their people. They're getting Copilot licenses, and I have some CEOs that come up to me very proudly. We've done AI. We have a Copilot license, and I have to say, well, okay, you've done about 2% of the work there, but it's a good start. It's necessary, but not sufficient. After that comes the business process re-engineering phase, where you're looking at workflows you have across the business and you're breaking them down and figuring out which of the tasks are still best done by humans, people, and there are many that will still be done by people, which are now best done by agents, digital employees, and which, if you have a physical component to your workflows, which are best done by robots. So that's the second phase. And some businesses are now moving into that phase or have been there for 6 months, 12 months. Very few businesses have moved to the third phase, which is figuring out how to become an AI first company. And that's one of the things I really help people think through. How do you make AI the engine that drives your company forward? Today, most of the engines for companies are built around people. That doesn't mean you don't need people anymore. It means you make AI the engine, you wrap people around that engine, you have the people steer that engine, and that enables you to think about, well, who could we be now that we are less constrained? One of the great things about AI, if you become an AI first company, it helps you collapse constraints, time and money. And so instead of thinking, well, how are we going to grow the business 20% next year or 25 or 30%, it allows you to say, well, how are we going to grow the business 300%, 500%, 1,000% next year? So that's the opportunity that lies ahead, and that's the real challenge for leaders is to not just be manage through all of that change, and there's a huge change management component, but do they have the vision and the guts to go on a journey that could transform the business into something that has 10x the impact that it had last year?
Yeah, and think about that as a business owner that's watching or listening to this. If you could 3x your business in a year or 10x
Hmm.
it, what does that do for impact? What does that do for the people you serve or the markets you want to serve, but you haven't been able to because of XYZ or XYZ,
Hmm.
depending on what part of the world you're from? Um,
Thank you for
yeah,
your
yeah.
cultural sensitivity.
There you go. I'm an U.S. and Canadian citizen, so I have to make sure what I look down and okay, where am I? Okay, Z. Okay, all right, Z. Yeah, or process or process. That one got me early on, but we get there. But again, you get those opportunities, and you go, okay, what could we do? And again, leveraging AI, you build quote unquote an AI ecosystem,
Mhm.
and I love how you say you have the people steer it. Well, that's like getting a spaceship and saying, okay, we're going to fly this all throughout the universe and all of that. Okay, well, you got the spaceship. It's what's getting you there. You have the people navigating, going, okay, well, let's take a direction over here. Let's try this. Well, let's avoid that big thing that looks like an asteroid. Let's not run into that. And again, it gives you these opportunities to expedite, quite frankly, what you may have had in that old 10-year window plan. And all of a sudden you're
Mhm.
like, wait a minute,
Right.
and we've seen this and we saw it, back in the dot-com era when it first launched. There was so many different innovations and things that have happened that businesses were able to scale and grow, or we've seen it with startups and biotech or other other industries. Fintech is another one where, and obviously you saw it with, the growth of the Googles and everybody else. And,
Yeah.
some, not that long ago, Google meant something completely different than what it does today. It's because they had some smart people. They brought on more smart people, and they've been able to dominate. And they're not the only one. There's a lot of companies that do that. I think back and go, what would we be looking at? I mean, now that it's too late, they're obviously doing it now, and a lot of other companies are as well. But imagine if a company like Google, for example, had access to these types of tools where you could 300x your business when they first launched. And all the innovation that they've done, it's like that window, quite frankly, can shorten, which again then opens up the opportunity to do things even more to advance humanity, the work we do, what the definition of work is. And I think that's a conversation a lot of people are starting to get their heads wrapped around, but not so much going, what does work look like? Because if AI does a lot of things that we are doing now, what does that free us up to do as
Right.
humans? And it's an interesting dynamic, and yeah, it's a conversation that is happening and it needs to happen, not
Hmm.
from this fear, from my perspective anyway, not from this fear standpoint, but from an opportunity standpoint. What could we do
Yeah.
now that we have the freedom to be able to do it?
And these are the questions that leaders need to ask is what could we do now that we could never do before? And what you're talking about is that the role of people in work is changing. We're moving from doing the work to designing the work and then overseeing the work. And that work is going to be done largely by AI, by agents and robots working in teams. And managers are now, they need to shift their thinking from managing resources, which is, what managers and leaders do, right? They manage scarce resources. They have a certain number of people, certain headcount, they have a certain number of dollars, they have certain capital facilities, and they're trying to do the best job they can with those fixed resources. Once you introduce AI into the equation and you have, you're offloading a lot of the work to AI and now moving all your people into management positions. Now everybody in the company, no matter how junior, becomes a manager of machines. Now that frees you up to think about going to market in different ways, to maybe go into adjacent businesses, to collapse your marginal costs so that you could potentially come up with new business models that you could never have entertained before. So it's very freeing, but you have to let go of this idea that people need to do all the work. People need to manage the work for sure. But if you free people up from doing, the day-to-day tasks, then they can start to innovate and take the company to entirely new places, which is exciting for everybody involved.
So, without giving away the Colonel's secret recipe here, that's an American thing. Although I think the great nephew released it on social media a while ago because he's got a spat with the owner of KFC now. So, I haven't tried it yet to see because it's like my cardiologist because no, you
None
don't
of
you
that
dare
stuff,
eat
yeah.
that. No, no, no. But love to hear some transformation story from somebody you've worked with. It could be anytime, but especially when the work that you're doing now and helping these organizations leverage AI. What was some of the breakthroughs, or quite frankly, what question I'm trying to get to is a lot of times leaders, in my experience and working with them and all that, sometimes they're a little
Hmm.
hesitant to do it. They're apprehensive, and as someone that does this work and can see the future a lot better than many people can, it's like when that leader gets that aha moment and they go, oh, that's when you go, okay, now I have their attention. Okay, now that it kind of breaks through some of the silos and they
Hmm.
do that. But share a story if you can, just a transformation story you've seen with a company that is now is
Yeah.
well on their way to being AI centric as far as an entity goes.
Well, I'll give you two pieces to that answer, Michael. The first one is the biggest aha for the leaders I work with is when they move from what I would call 20th century to 21st century thinking. 20th century thinking is how do I use technology to cut costs and improve productivity and efficiency, right? And that's all good stuff. And that's what IT largely gave us for the last 50 years or so. The opportunity with AI is sure you can do that stuff too if you really wanted to, and you'll get some of that. But the real opportunity with AI is to amplify, not automate away your people. And that's the big breakthrough is realizing, oh, I can play a different game here. Instead of using AI to get rid of people, cut costs, and move to basically an undifferentiated model, because the biggest differentiation that you have as a brand is the people you have working for you. They're the ones that show up and deliver differentiation. So you're stripping yourself of that if you stay with that 20th century model. The 21st century thinking model realizes that AI can not just improve productivity, it can also boost the creativity of your employees, improve their intuition, their decision making skills, and so on. So once people recognize this is an amplifier for the talent I have, not a way of getting rid of people on the balance sheet, they get that breakthrough. And Jensen Huang, the CEO of Nvidia, had that. He was asked about a year and a half ago what his plan is for his workforce. He said, we've got about 32,000 employees today, and over time, we plan to grow to about 50,000 employees, supported by 100 million AI assistants across every group. So it shows he is embracing that 21st century thinking, and his workforce planning is not either or, people or AI, it's and. How do I amplify the 50,000 people I have with 100 million digital employees working for them? And that's the right way to be thinking about it. I'll give you another example. This is not one I was involved with, but it's one that I think illustrates the potential here. And it comes from Starbucks. Starbucks created an AI called Deep Brew. If you use the Starbucks app, it tracks everything that you do. Not when you're in the stores, right? What you buy, what time you buy it. It knows about your drinking habits, and they make targeted offers to you. And the offer it makes to Michael will be different than the offer it makes to Steve. And it's not just that it's going to offer a different drink based on what we like drinking. It learns over time how to word the offer, how to optimize that, the button to say yes might be gold for you and green for me because it knows there's a percentage chance increase that I'll press that button if it's a different color. So they hyper personalize offers. And by doing that, they manage to increase the response to these offers. People going, oh, that sounds good. I'll go and have a Starbucks right now by 300%. So, and this is using classic good old AI, predictive AI, machine learning. So there's all sorts of huge opportunities, even in a mature business using mature technology like machine learning that's been around for 15 years to have these enormous business impacts. So that's what people need to know is there's plenty of opportunities still left on the table.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a great example from $6, which is more like $10 now, but that's my nickname is $6 from. But ironically, I got an email from them this morning, and I have to go back and look at the color on it. But it was things that were like, okay, here's, I forget how it was, but they showed on the menu items, the things that I've ordered from them in the past. Now I'm gonna have to look at the time on that to go, okay, is that a time that I would frequent that store? And just off top of my head, I believe it is. So to your point, it's like, okay, they
Mm,
know that. And we know that with the listening devices that we have in our homes, or we'll have a conversation, then all of a sudden we'll open up an ad-based page, and there'll
yeah,
be an
there it
ad
is.
for
Yeah.
something, and you're like, huh. And a lot of people, first, well, that's, invasion of privacy. It's like, folks, we're taking pictures of where we're eating, what we're eating, and when we're eating. It's like privacy. If you want to be private, then okay, that's fine. But understand that that's how businesses are fine tuning because you think back, let's go back to the television show Mad Men, for example. Some people loved it. It was a great snapshot of that time as far as marketing and advertising and things like that. Imagine in that era being able to pinpoint down to Mike likes this breakfast sandwich from Starbucks
Hmm.
combined with this coffee, this size. But in the afternoon, if he happens to go in there, which is rare, but occasionally he does, he wants a decaf Americano. All right, let's send him an email at 2:42 p.m. on a Thursday and say, "Hey, you want a decaf?" Well, yes, I do, and waddle over and hand him my $6, and then they,
And
they hand me a
Starbucks goes
cup.
even further. They even know the weather when you bought that drink. So they know if it's hot outside, you're going to want to buy something different than if it's
Mhm,
cold outside. And they
mhm.
even know what's the staffing level in the stores near you and what are the items that they have in stock and what are they about to go out of stock of, so they don't suggest a drink that you go in and they have to say, oh, I'm sorry, we've run out of chai tea, whatever it is. So it's a very sophisticated system that optimizes for sales.
That, and there's the classic where there's a handful of Starbucks, by me, which is probably not rare, but where I live, there's five or six anyway. And there's an individual named Shane, and I went into a store that I don't go to very often, and he was there in the morning, and I looked at him, and I'm like, "Do you own all of these?" He says, "No, I just bounce around between them." I'm like, interesting. It's like, okay,
Hmm.
he loves doing that. But from a person, he knows what I drink. So I was like, he looks up and he goes, that. I'm like, you have a great memory. And so he's using the internal AI. He knows what I like.
Right. Yeah.
But again, that's as a business, you leverage that. And I think about you know just in time inventory for manufacturing. They something that Toyota implemented a long time ago, and a lot of other businesses have attempted to do it. Some are great at, some aren't. But again, you get all that information in, and then it can make you more efficient. Again, it's doing it itself, because otherwise your boss says, all right, what's our bleed rate on this or this, or how often do we sell this part in quarter 2 versus quarter 3 or quarter 4. Well,
Hmm.
again, you put all the information in it, it's going to tell you that. Your dashboard will give you whatever you want on it, and it's instant, and it's going to have like the demographic you said, weather, for example. It's like, okay, he's not going to want that because it's warm out. He's going to want something, maybe a cool refresher drink or something like that. This is turning into a Starbucks commercial. I'm going to have to hit them up for ad money, or at least throw me $10 on my gift card there. That'll be good. Probably should ask for more than that, but anyway, at least I'll buy one thing, I guess. But again, I look at it as there's so many opportunities here for efficiencies, and with efficiencies means it reduces the strain on people to constantly be grinding, and go more towards a creating and thinking about the future and being able to
Hmm.
actually have time to do it. I tell people all the time, leaders especially, when was the last time you stared at the wall and just started thinking about things? And they say, well, I stare at the wall all the time, but I'm trying to, figure out where am I at and where's my head. It's like, no, you want to dream, because if
Yeah.
you can relax yourself enough, that's when those creative thoughts come in. And if you've got the agents and the system doing all your work, you can take a step back and dream and imagine, okay, what can we do with this? What are some arenas? Is there something we've wanted to do for a long time, but we've never been able to do? Does this
And that's what AI
opportunity?
can free you up to do. Yeah. I mean,
Absolutely.
whether, I mean, the old AI we've been talking about for the last 5-10 minutes, that optimization AI, it's been around for 10-15 years. It optimizes global businesses, whether it is optimizing marketing or inventory levels or making demand predictions. It's been around for a while. I think the opportunity now is to use agents, agentic AI, which are essentially digital employees now, to complement your workforce and free up the time so that the human talent you have, absolutely to your point, can start to dream again. There's a reason that most of our good ideas come to us in the shower. And it's because the phone's not there, the laptop's not there, right? We're forced to actually free our brain up for a minute and just, think about if you could essentially have a long shower every day, the ideas you come up with, the breakthroughs that you would have if you can just free yourself up from the drudge work. And that's one of the things that agents offer. There's sort of three different flavors of agents: offload agents, extend agents, and elevate agents. But the offload agents do the drudge work that we don't find enjoyable. They kind of take the suck out of our jobs. And they free us up to focus more of our time on the creative stuff. And that's where the extend and elevate agents, they partner with us to help us be more creative, to be more intuitive, to come up with new ideas. So there's always incredible opportunity here. And a lot of people are afraid of AI, and I understand why. I understand absolutely why. And we need to be concerned about how we're going to integrate this into our lives. And we need to do it thoughtfully. But if we get this right, this is going to free people up to have more thinking time, more dream time, more reflection. We've sort of forgotten what it is to be bored anymore. And there's actually, talking to anthropologists, there is a function, there's an important function in being bored, not having constantly a phone to look at or a screen to entertain us. Having that moment, that time to reflect is really important for humans. And I think AI can give us that.
And it's important for us to be bored again because when
Yeah.
we're bored, like you said, and that research shows that's when creativity happens. And society, we deserve new things. We deserve great things. We've been, as a race, we think about what we have created in the history of the human race. We're not done. We're just too busy staring at our eye binkies and not. That's my brother's nickname for my iPhone.
Yeah.
It's like because I'm always on the damn thing, but not now. It's over there. But no, it's important for us to learn how to be bored again. So, Steve, love this conversation. Love the work you're doing. Where can people find out more about you and all this amazing work?
Yeah, you can find me at stevebrown.ai, fairly easy. If you like to follow me on LinkedIn, it's linkedin.com/in/future Steve. There are lots of Steve Browns out there, so just look for Future Steve. And if you're interested in some of the ideas I've shared today, I wrote a book for business leaders, and it's called The AI Ultimatum. And you can pick up a copy on Amazon. The last time I looked, the paperback and the hardback were priced the same. So if you get in quick, you can pick up the hardback for just $20.
There you go. Act quick, folks. We'll get all that in the show notes. So, Steve, thank you for this important work. You're going to make the world better because of it. So, I really appreciate your time today.
Hey, thanks for having me. It was really fun.